the dolorous passion and death of our Lord Jesus Christ. Chapter 44. Mary and the holy women go to Golgotha. After that most painful meeting with her divine Son carrying his cross before the dwelling of Caiaphas, the most afflicted mother was conducted by John and the holy women, Johanna Chusa, Susanna and Salome, to the house of Nazareth in the vicinity of the corner gate. Here the other holy women, in tears and lamentations, were gathered around Magdalene and Martha. Some children were with them. They now went all together, in number 17, with the Blessed Virgin, careless of the jeers of the mob, grave and resolute, and by their tears, awe-inspiring, across the forum, where they kissed the spot upon which Jesus had taken up the burden of the cross. Thence they proceeded along the whole of the sorrowful way trodden by him and venerated the places marked by special sufferings. The Blessed Virgin saw and recognized the footprints of her divine Son. She numbered his steps, pointed out to the holy women all the places consecrated by his sufferings, regulated their halting and going forward on this way of the cross, which with all its details was deeply imprinted in her soul. In this manner, that most touching devotion of the early Church, first written by the sword of Simeon's prophecy on the loving mother heart of Mary, was transmitted from her lips to the companions of her sorrows, and from them passed down to us. It is the sacred gift of God to the heart of the mother, whence it has descended from heart to heart among her children. Thus is the tradition of the Church propagated. If people could see as I do, such gifts would appear to them more replete with life and holiness than any other. To the Jews, all places in which holy events dear to the heart happened, were thenceforth sacred. They forgot no spot remarkable for some great occurrence. They raised upon it a monument of stones, and went thither at times to pray. And so arose the devotion of the holy way of the cross, not from any afterthought, but from the nature of man himself and the designs of God over his people, and from the truest mother love which, so to speak, first trod that way under the very feet of Jesus himself. The holy band of mourners now arrived at Veronica's dwelling, which they entered, for Pilate with his riders and 200 soldiers, having turned back at the city gate, was coming along the street. Here, with tears and expressions of sorrow, the holy women gazed upon the face of Jesus impressed upon Veronica's veil, and glorified his goodness toward his faithful friend. Taking the vessel of aromatic wine which Veronica had not been permitted to present to Jesus, they went to the gate nearby, and out to Golgotha. Their number was increased on the way by the addition of many well-disposed people who traversed the streets with a demeanor at once orderly and deeply impressed. This procession was almost greater than that which followed Jesus, inclusive of the rabble running after it. The sufferings of the most afflicted mother of sorrows on this journey, at the sight of the place of execution and her ascent to it, cannot be expressed. They were twofold: the pains of Jesus suffered interiorly and the sense of being left behind. Magdalene was perfectly distracted, intoxicated and reeling, as it were, with grief precipitated from agony to agony. From silence long maintained she fell to lamenting, from listlessness to wringing her hands, from moaning to threatening the authors of her misery. She had to be continually supported, protected, admonished to silence, and concealed by the other women. They went up the hill by the gently sloping western side and stood in 3 groups, one behind the other, outside the wall enclosing the circle. The mother of Jesus, her niece Mary Cleophas, Salome and John stood close to the circle. Martha, Mary Haley, Veronica, Johanna Chusa, Susanna, and Mary Marcus stood a little distance back around Magdalene, who could no longer restrain herself. Still farther back were about 7 others, and between these groups were some well-disposed individuals who carried messages backward and forward. The mounted Pharisees were stationed in groups at various points around the circle, and the 5 entrances were guarded by Roman soldiers. What a spectacle for Mary! The place of execution, the hill of crucifixion, the terrible cross outstretched before her, the hammers, the ropes, the dreadful nails, and all around, the brutal, drunken executioners, with curses completing their preparations. The crucifixion stakes of the thieves were already raised, and to facilitate ascent, plugs were stuck in the holes, bored to receive them. The absence of Jesus intensified the mother's martyrdom. She knew that he was still alive. She longed to see him, and yet she shuddered at the thought, for when she should again behold him, it would be in suffering unutterable. The weather. Toward 10 in the morning, when the sentence had been pronounced, a little hail fell at intervals. At the time of Jesus' journey to Calvary, the sky cleared and the sun shone out, but toward 12 it was partially obscured by a lurid reddish fog